We're getting closer to Build Week for Devtoberfest. Let's find out more. Hi, I'm Ian Klein. Welcome to another SAP CodeTalk. And of course, I have the most awesome Thomas Young with me. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on again.
That's no problem whatsoever. So we are now in week 9, just checking my calendar, week 9 of Devtoberfest, and it's the last week of the enablements. A little bit of a different one this week, the guys will be finding out, because we have our friends from GitHub, and they've already supplied the information, so they can actually consume that any day of the week now, can't they? Whereas before we had sort of schedules.
Yeah, we did go with the scheduled because GitHub is supplying the content, actual employees from GitHub, the company, and they're hosting the content. But the content is very similar in its nature. There are some educational videos, there are some tutorial exercises, and near the end of the week, unlike previous weeks where we did a office hours like the following week, because we're right up against the build week, we're going to do it all next week. So we are going to have live office hours with some engineers from GitHub on Thursday.
Cool. So we mentioned obviously the reason why we're doing the GitHub folks are there, because as part of the build week, which starts well, it's a week and a bit. We start on the 24th. We run through to the end of the day on November the 1st. You've got to have your submission through some sort of Git sort of repository, haven't you?
Yeah, it has to be a publicly accessible Git repository. As it turns out, I think every one of the submissions so far has used GitHub. We don't require you to use a GitHub, just a publicly accessible Git. But it is pretty, I don't want to say it's pretty standard, but it's pretty common that people do use GitHub. So we thought it would be helpful to have our friends from GitHub come on and share some information about some of the more advanced features of GitHub, like how to write GitHub actions and how to set up a testing pipeline and things like that, to really help, some of these projects, maybe some of the fledgling projects, really kind of grow, because with some of the automation that they supply, it can help these distributed teams set up automated testing, set up automated build and distribution. And if you're a small team all working on volunteer time, any support you can get for those sort of things are welcome.
Okay. Well, you mentioned one word at the start of your answer then, which was it's not a prerequisite, but there are some sort of prerequisites to do with being part of Devtoberfest and being part of Build Week. Obviously, the first one is that you need to be part of a project, but there are some other little things we need our attendees to do. So would you like to remind us?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of requirements. You do have to have registered in the Eventbrite system. The link is available on the developers.sap.com site for Devtoberfest, and we have links in the GitHub repo, so it's easy to find. You have to supply just a little bit of information, basically, so we can contact you and make sure that you're from an eligible country. There's only a few embargoed countries that aren't allowed. I'm sorry, North Korea and Iran and a couple others, but very minimal requirements there to get started. And then you have to enter your project itself just by giving us the URL to wherever your project is hosted. And you do that by doing a pull request on our Devtoberfest repo in the entry.txt file. You just add a line to the text file and give us the URL. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, we're going to judge projects on how applicable are they to SAP developers. So if you enter something, even if it meets the technical eligibility, if it doesn't do anything for SAP developers, then yeah, it won't be judged well. And it needs to be publicly accessible, because we have to be able to look at the code. and people have to be able to consume the code, because the whole idea is that everything should be accessible and consumable by the community. So those are pretty much the minimal requirements there.
Yeah, and as you were saying, as part of going through Eventbrite, we do supply you some TNC, which we assume you're
Yeah.
going to look and read and sort of digest it.
I'm sure everyone reads every line of the legal terms and conditions.
That's right, exactly. Rather than the check. But no, yeah, you just spend a little bit of time. It's pretty straightforward. If any of you guys have looked at some of the jams or demo jams we've done before, pretty much standard type stuff. But you mentioned actually again a minute ago, Tom, where you sort of skipped over, you glossed over Build Week, because Build Week is literally it's the way that the guys are going to be, working together, producing something.
Yeah, we hope that everything in the 9 weeks has been building up to this. I mean, this is, yes, the free education, the enablement sessions have hopefully been useful, even if you don't plan to participate in Build Week. Hope people have enjoyed and learned from the content. But the core idea is get people excited, plant ideas, and get teams building and contributing back. And my hope is that at least a small number of the community that maybe has never contributed before will take this opportunity and contribute to a project for the first time, and see what it's like to give back. A lot of us consume open source all the time. These days it's very prevalent, but a very small fraction of people ever contribute back. And that contribution doesn't have to be a major piece of code, as we've talked about a couple of times last week in the community and open source interviews that we did. We heard that some of the best contributions are testing, entering issues, helping with the documentation, or writing test cases. So even if you aren't, even if you don't feel comfortable getting involved in deeply writing code in somebody else's project, we're all good testers, right? We can download a project, try it out, and see if it works in our environment, and then supply that feedback back to the maintainers of the project. And that's part of getting involved and contributing as part of Devtoberfest as well.
So you mentioned that Build Week's going to happen. Build Week 24th to the 1st of November. So remember that, guys. After that, you and the advocacy team are going to sort of sit there, go through, look at this stuff. What's the sort of next phase? I don't want to sort of tie you down too deeply to especially times and stuff like that. But what's your next? Describe the next phase, the judging phase after that.
Yeah, so we'll judge.
Phase.
Right. Yeah. So we'll do the first round of judging. The developer advocates, mostly the people that everyone has met through the enablement sessions. We'll look at the projects that have been submitted, and we'll focus in on the code that was committed during the build week. And we'll look at the issues and the documentation, how it's progressed. And we'll look at the project in general. What kind of value does it provide to the SAP developer, in particular, the developer community? What's it trying to accomplish? And then we'll look at, what was done during the build week, what was accomplished, because some of the projects are longer lived, have been out there for a while, and we don't want to. And then, of course, a project that's been around 5+ years has a little bit of an advantage. So to level the playing field, we'll really look at what enhancements or changes that it received during the build week. And we'll narrow it down to 5 finalists. And then we will post those finalists in the SAP community in a way that people can come to the community and vote on the winner. Very similar to the way that we have ran several times this year, the coding challenges, where we get a bunch of submissions and we narrow it down to a few finalists, and then the community votes on the absolute winner. And then during Tech Ed, in December 8th through the 10th, Tech Ed will be taking place, depending on your time zones, how the days stretch there. During Tech Ed, we can expect in our Channel 1 section of Tech Ed, there will be a segment where we will highlight the finalist and announce the winner, the overall winner, that the community has chosen as the overall winner of Devtoberfest.
So, as you say, pre-judging by the advocacy teams, making sure everything's run by the book, and fair as much as we can make it. And then the final
Yeah.
judging is from you, the guys in the community. So
Yeah, and
it's going to
everything
be
times out right. The community should have about a month or so to register votes during the month of November. We know there's some holidays in there, Diwali and Thanksgiving here in the U.S., and so we wanted to give a nice big window so people aren't having to rush out, and they have a chance to also go check out the finalists and you know, not just choose based upon name recognition, but hopefully when people are voting, they're looking at the code and they're studying, maybe trying it out, and then give you a chance to carefully consider your choice and vote.
excellent. Tom, thank you very much for taking us through that. Really looking forward to getting some information back from you guys once you've digested those projects, and I'm sure we'll keep the community pretty much aware of everything, every step that's happening. So
Oh
thank
yes,
you very
yes, we'll
much
have some
again.
more.
And
I was just gonna say we'll have some more communication once the finalists are ready. We'll share our
yeah,
thoughts on why we chose those finalists. Once again, very similar to like we did with the coding challenges. But yeah, we look forward then to the whole community really get involved and help us pick the best finalists.